Hello, everyone. I'm sure, like many of you, I was intrigued by the vivacious young woman who had been chosen by President Biden to read her poem, The Hill We Climb, at his 2021 inauguration, the youngest poet ever to have been given that distinction. Born in Los Angeles in 1998, graduated cum laude from Harvard in 2020, Amanda had already served as Youth Poet Laureate of Los Angeles, and in 2017 was named National Youth Poet Laureate of the United States. Not one to rest on her laurels, she now directed the One Pen, One Page organization, providing free creative writing programs for underserved youth. The Gorman poems I will read were published as the collection Call Us What We Carry in 2021. I begin with Call Us. Grant us this day, bruising the make of us. At times, over half of our bodies are not our own. Our persons made vessel for non-human cells. To them we are a boat of a being, essential, a country, a continent, a planet, a human microbiome is all the writhing forms on and inside this body, drafted under our life. We are not me, we are we. Call us what we carry. The dominant influence of the COVID pandemic on what we carry is clearly reflected in Fugue. Don't get us wrong. We do pound for what has passed, but more so all that we passed by, unthanking, unknowing, when what we had was ours. There was another gap that choked us, the simple gift of farewell, goodbye, but by which we say to another, thanks for offering your life into mine. By goodbye, we truly mean, let us be able to say hello again. This is edgeless doubt. Every cough seemed catastrophe. Every proximate person a potential peril. We mapped each sneeze and sniffle, certain the virus we had run away from was now running through us. We slept the days down. We wept the year away, frayed and afraid. Perhaps that is what it means to breathe and die in this flesh. Forgive us, for we have walked this before. History flickered in and out of our vision, a movie our eyelids staggered through. We added 1,000 false steps to our walk tracker today because every step we've taken has required more than we had to give. In such eternal nature, we spent days as the walking dead. Dreading disease and disaster, we cowered, bone shriveled as a laurel in drought, our throats made of frantic workings, feet falling over themselves like famished fawns. We awaited horrors, building up leviathans before they rose. We could not pull our heads from the raucous deep. Anxiety is a living body, poised beside us like a shadow. It is the last creature standing, the only beast who loves us enough to stay. We were already thousands of deaths into the year every time we fell heart first into the news. head first, dread first, our bodies tight and tensed with what now? Yet who has the courage to inquire, what if? What hope shall we shelter within us like a secret, second smile, private and pure? Sorry if we're way less friendly. We had COVID Tina end things. Even now, handshakes and hugs are like gifts, something we are shocked to be granted. And so we forage for anything that feels like this, the click in our lung that ties us to strangers. How, when among those we care for most, we shift with instinct, like the flash of a school of fish. Our regard for one another not tumored, just transformed. By hello, we mean let us not say goodbye again. There is someone we would die for. Feel that fierce, unshifting truth, that braced and ready sacrifice. That's what love does. It makes a fact faced beyond fear. We have lost too much to lose. We lean against each other again, the way water bleeds into itself. This glassed hour paused, burst like a loaded star, belonging always to us. What more must we believe in? And the COVID menace continues to rear its ugly head in There's No Power Like Home. We were sick of home, homesick. That mask around our ear hung itself into the year. Once we stepped into our home, we found ourselves gasping, tearing it off like a bandage, like something that gauze the great gape of our mouth. Even faceless, a smile can still scale up our cheeks, bone by bone, our eyes crinkling delicately as rice paper at some equally fragile beauty, the warbling blues of a dog, a squirrel venturing close, the life of a beloved's joke. Our mask is no veil, but a view. What are we, if not what we see in another? And somehow then, there is surviving. Soon. Somehow I've lost it. We may not survive. Well, there we go. Sorry. These words need not be read for our blood to run through them. When tragedy threatens to end us, we are flooded by what is felt. Our faces fluctuating, warped like an acre passing seasons. Perhaps the years are plotted and planned, just like seeds in a fresh plowed field. When we dream, we act only with instinct. We might not be fully sure of all that we are, and yet we have endured all that we were. Even now, we're shuddering, the revelation aching. It didn't have to be this way. In fact, it did not have to be. And then the realization, which is called, and so. It is easy to harp, harder to hope. This truth, like the white blown sky, can only be felt in its entirety or not at all. The glorious was not made to be piecemeal, despite being drenched with dread. This dark girl still dreams. We smile like a sun that is never shunted. Grief, when it goes, does so softly, like the exit of that breath we just realized we clutched. Since the world is round, there is no way to walk away from each other, for even then, we are coming back together. Some distances, if allowed to grow, are merely the greatest proximities. In Good Grief, we find the further illumination of the collection's title. The origin of the word trauma is not just wound, but piercing or turning, as blades do when finding home. Grief commands its own grammar, structured by intimacy and imagination. We often say we're beside ourselves with grief. We can't even imagine. This means anguish can call us to envision more than what we believed was carryable or even survivable. This is to say, there does exist a good grief. The hurt is how we know we are alive and awake. It clears us for all the exquisite, excruciating enormities to come. We are pierced anew by the turning forward. All that is grave need not be a burden, an anguish. Call it instead an anchor. Grief grounding us in its sea. Despair exits us the same way it enters, turning through the mouth. Even now, conviction works strange magic on our tongues. We are built up again by what we build, find, see, say, remember, know. What we carry means we survive. It is what survives us. We have survived us. Where once we were alone, now we are beside ourselves. Where once we were barbed and brutal as blades, now we can only imagine. I especially love the imagery with which Compass concludes. This year, the size of a sea sick to its stomach. Like a page, we are only legible when open to one another. But what is a book? It, if not foremost, a body, waiting and wanting, yearning to be whole, full of itself. This book is full of ourselves. The past is one passionate déjà vu, one scene already seen. In history's form, we find our own faces, recognizable but unremembered, familiar yet forgotten. Please, do not ask us who we are. The burden, the hardest part of grief, is giving it a name. The pain pulls us apart like lips about to speak. Without language, nothing can live at all, let alone beyond itself. Lost as we feel, there is no better compass than compassion. We find ourselves not by being the most seen, but the most seeing. We watch a toddler freewheeling through warm grass, not fleeing, just running the way rivers do. For it is in their unfettered nature we smile, our whole face cleared by that single dazzling thing. How could we not be altered? Then in Earth Eyes, poignantly, Amanda expresses her deep concern for the environment. Earth Eyes. Often she has something like this, where the printing, it's very much a part of the book. It's the graphics that they use. This is Earth Eyes. What have we done? Currently, our jaw is clamped down, our shoulders nailed to the ears, bones braced for brutal battle. By think of the next generation, we mean every day this very ground spoils beneath us, for we are bringing to in all the ends of the earth, the end of all the earth. Please believe us when we say we too ache to imagine something new. Reparation lies not in the land we own, but the very land we owe. The soil and toil we thieved in from the start. Nothing is a grander cemetery than this water, drinkable, our air, breathable, birds built and blurred on a breeze, trees heaving huge sighs into the heavens, our children giggling and gilded in grass. Earnest for the first time, we must earn the turned earth back. Now we are begged to save it. We screech with kids who must fix the world because braving it is no longer enough. The youth will save us, they say, but even that is its own release. Our short lives now aimed at the oily-headed monsters that reared their teeth before we even gave our first wet croak. Generations of the past order be our recruits, not our rescues. Oh, how we want our parents, red and restless, as wild and dying for a difference as we are. The intensity of concern is only heightened in Captive. The animals flooded our streets, demanding answers or food, here to take back what was theirs. We were swept up by an unsung need for nature, for the sky slack and blue, the studded stirring of stars. That June we kicked off our shoes, feet sticky with summer, and sat on somebody else's lawn, if just to let grass steam up our toes. We're still in that green, shuddering the discs of our eyes, the bark of us swaying, not by any breeze imaginable. Animals in captivity will demonstrate what it termed stereotypic behavior, repetitive and unwearing actions that have neither good goal nor function. Some examples of stereotypic behavior include incessant pacing, over-grooming, rocking, kicking, excessive sleeping, and self-mutilation. Our recollection is gray and stormed. Isolation is its own climate. 6 months and we still could not grasp what we were losing every minute. We stalked ourselves for days in our own house, absolutely ebulic, incessantly incensed. We chewed our nails to the knuckles, ground our teeth to stardust, flipped unpolluted memories over in our mind like a penny, rubbed faceless for good luck. We walk daily with the dying the dying of the earth, the hopes hoarded behind our throat and extinction. What exactly is meant by normal? What exactly is meant? Stereotypes are demonstrated in many animals, including elephants, horses, polar bears, macaques, and humans. Because stereotypic behavior is not seen in the wild, it is considered a strong indicator of poor psychological health in the caged organism. Thus, stereotypes are termed abnormal, or rather, the captive environment is the true abnormality. Smaller cages can exacerbate stereotypes. To be captive, then, is to be rendered a trope of oneself. The same sapiens, we flooded our streets, demanding answers and change. To love is to be liable to ourselves and each other. Our need for nature is our need for origins, the green, tangled place where we are of least consequence and yet still matter as much as anything. We count each organ-ordered throb that makes us this upright mammal. Among ants at time, even the queen must carry and bury her dead. We cannot tally all we would give just to be this unbeaten heart. Locked down, the animal may perform the behavior in the same way over and over at the same time, over and over, in the same place, over and over, with the same results. What we're describing is insanity, or 2020. Perhaps there's a day with no tattered terrain of terror, only an ether strung into blue, the beauty of the planet, when we remember to look, stuns us blank as babes. To care is how we vow that we are here, that we are. It is how we break free. Her delight in words is clear in the poem Pan. Pandemic, meaning all people. Pandemonium, meaning all demon. Pandora, meaning all gifted. Pan, meaning God of nature. All people here, meaning are all demon, all gifted. It is in our divine nature. We now appreciate that Pandora's box was a jar left ajar, a pathos. To tell the mistranslation, then, is to risk being remembered by its fiction, meaning a storage container for grain, oil, wheat, and even the dead. We all need places to lay down our grief. Where else to put it? That vessel held all plague, all pain, and all hope. Don't panic. Instead, turn to a companion. What are we if not the curiosity to open the coffins we carry? Who are we if not all the things we let loose? And from the AIDS pandemic emerged the poem Text Tiles, the Names. I'm going to try my glasses. The print is smaller here. Learn those lives touched. No one would touch you anymore, you said. Your friends had become afraid and could not hold you close. The word is not in my vocabulary. Afraid is absent from our vocabulary. Is fate because of fear? We'll never know. You know, don't you? Even those you never knew remember you. We will do our best to see that no one will have to live without love, know what it is like to be shunned by nurses and friends, hospital employees, refusing to come into your room, and when they did, they were covered in plastic gloves and smocks. Please take the pieces. Please forgive us for getting carried away. We did it for two reasons: for all who've been lost and all we've lost them. Fathers, grandparents, sisters, brothers, sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, lovers, and friends. So good. We could change things. We could stop the epidemic. We could save you in the end, of course. We could not speak those names found by humanity. Now, cannot put love into the past tense. Above all, love very much. If love could cure, each day slowly could not breathe, life still lives. Our memories are you. Remember, this loving was dying, distort body, breathing difficult, lonesomeness, and a never-ending ache. We were barred from seeing, to see, to mourn. We tried to forget. We just can't let go yet. Hang on. Remember clearly. The best way is with poems. Remember, we were beginning, dancing true, new meaning, new hope. We have held this hope with the rest. We stood and did not see death. Do you see? From the world to whatever awaits. Graphics are very effectively used in this book. In its design and the printing, in the section called Fury and Faith, the pages start almost black and with white lettering. And white printing, and slowly they lighten. And on the American flag is written, a house divided cannot stand. To be divided then is to be devastated. The fact of the matter is that our country seldom counts all who matter. This is why red seeps from our flag. We will say again that language matters. From the beginning, the colonized are kennings, African American, Asian American, Native American. Apparently, there is no white American, American and adjective, American and qualifier. The terms split up and dismantled, stripped and striped. Erasure demands a lifetime of rehearsal. Do you really understand what it is to be the dispensable body? We recognize the sobs now for the flags they were. The jerk of our heads as if waking from a dream or a nightmare. You decide. This is not the nation we built, at most not the nation we've known. No, oh no. This is the nation we've sown. It is our right to weep for the wound we've always been. A silent shock out of the blue, a hand hung to another, or a head pillowed by a shoulder is by far worth more than anything we've won or wanted. When told we can't make a difference, we'll still make a sound. I think I I'm getting close to my time, so I'm going to skip through this part of it, but you can see that it goes from dark pages to lighter and lighter. And gratefully, the mood lightens as we emerge to read The Miracle of Morning. We thought we'd awaken to a world in mourning, heavy clouds crowding, society storming, but there's something different in this golden morning, something magical in the sunlight, wide and warming. We see a dad with a stroller taking a jog. Across the street, a bright-eyed girl chases her dog. A grandma on a porch fingers her rosaries. She grins at her young neighbor bringing her groceries. While we might feel small, separate, and all alone, our people have never been more closely tethered. The question isn't if we can weather the unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. So on this meaningful morn, we mourn and we mend like light. We can't be broken, even when we bend. As one, we will defeat both despair and disease. We stand with healthcare, heroes, and all employees, with families, libraries, waiters, schools, artists, businesses, restaurants, and hospitals hit hardest. We ignite not in the light, but in lack thereof. For it is in loss that we truly learned to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity. In suffering, we will find solidarity. For it is our grief that gives us our gratitude, shows us how to find hope if we ever lose it. So ensure that this ache wasn't endured in vain. Do not ignore the pain. Give it purpose. Use it. Read children's books. Dance alone to DJ music. Know that this distance will make our hearts grow fonder. From these waves of woes, our world will emerge stronger. We'll observe how the burdens braved by humankind are also the moments that made us humans kind. Let each morning find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing in testing times we became the best of beings. I think I will stop there. I'm sorry, I've run over time. This book concludes with the poem that she read at the inaugural, The Hill We Climb. If you want to hear it, I'll read it, but I think, yes, if you'd like to be excused, you may be excused. I will read that last poem then. It's the one she wrote for the inaugural. Mr. President and Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President and Mr. Emhoff, Americans and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've heaved the belly of the beast. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours. Before we knew it, somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country in a time where a skinny black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, fat from pristine, far from pristine. But this doesn't mean we're striving to form a union that is perfect. We're striving to forego our union. Excuse me. We are striving to forge our union with purpose. To compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so that we can reach our arms out to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that. Everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade. The hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith, we trust. For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move on to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from our bronze-pounded chests, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. In every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country, our people, diverse and dutiful, will emerge battered but beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. No wonder she became so prominent with that poem. Incredible.